Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, like many of you, I grew up in Nottinghamshire, in Nottingham itself, but the first time I actually came to Welbeck Abbey was as a young assistant inspector of ancient monuments, working for English Heritage at Bolsover Castle, just a few miles away over that way. We were researching the painted interiors inside Bolsover Castle, and we knew that some comparable paintings existed inside the rather mysterious house of Welbeck Abbey, owned by the same family. So I very well remember coming over from Bolsover with my colleague Helen. At that time, Welbeck Abbey was a boarding school, and we were taken around by the bursar of the school in order to examine the building, to research it. The trouble was that the bursars of boys' boarding schools are used to suddenly bursting into rooms and dormitories in the hope of sniffing out bad behaviour. He sort of forgot that this time he had two young ladies with him. We didn't see any bad behaviour, but we did see an awful lot of naked boys getting changed after rugby. We were surprised to see them, but not as surprised as they were to see us. Now, obviously, this building, this spectacular new gallery, is partly for showing new art across the way, but partly for showing old. And that's this collection of treasures amassed over the centuries by that family who live up the drive in the big Abbey house itself. And what I like about Welbeck Abbey and the people who lived in it is that I think it's a deeply eccentric place. And with all due respect to William, some of the people who've lived there have been quite bonkers. And the things that they've commissioned or collected, their art has sometimes been quite bonkers too. For example, one of the research questions we had at Bolsover Castle was about the changes that had taken place to that building in the 19th century. It became a vicarage. We knew the vicar had added on a little porch, but I couldn't find any evidence for what this porch looked like. So I asked Derek, who used to look after the collections at Welbeck, if there was anything in the collection here that could help me. And there was. There was a little model of Bolsover Castle made out of silver. It was an engagement present from one family member to another. And I was astounded. I knew about architectural models. I didn't think that they could be made out of silver as they were at Welbeck Abbey. And the silversmith had put in the little porch that I was interested in. And I became particularly interested in some of the really very strange members of the family. Everybody knows about the underground man, the fifth Duke, who built the subterranean tunnels and the underground ballroom, but I think he's just the start. First of all came the Cavendishes, who turned the Abbey into the house of Welbeck, including my guy, William, who loved to teach horses how to dance, odd hobby. He had a brother, Charles, who was a brilliant mathematician, a wife, Margaret, who was history's first feminist science fiction writer. When they died out without a male heir in the late 17th century, a second Margaret Cavendish managed to disinherit all of her sisters, and she married John Hollis, 1st Duke of Newcastle. So the family name is now Cavendish Hollis. I want you to keep up with all of these name changes, because there's going to be a test at the end. They had just one girl, Henrietta, who married Edward Harley, 2nd Earl of Oxford and Mortimer. So the family name is now Cavendish Hollis Harley. That's 2 female successions. She, Henrietta, was fantastic. She was a rich, reclusive patron of architecture. She furiously built enormous additions onto Welbeck Abbey, boasting that she had more than 100 men working at once. She kept them at it day and night by candlelight. I hear that's been happening on this new building too. She was horse mad as well, had herself painted in her riding habit. Her daughter, yes, it's another female succession, married William Bentinck, the 2nd Duke of Portland. So the family name is now Cavendish Hollis Harley Bentinck. And when he died, she had a long widowhood as the richest woman in England and spent all of her money collecting plants and wonders. Her house became known as the Hive because of all the botanists and the entomologists and the ornithologists that she employed there, with the aim of collecting and recording every species in the whole world. So naturally, when she designed herself a silver gilt dessert service, it had silver insects crawling all over it. They're mad on silver in this place. And all these rather brilliantly odd people have created what I think is a brilliantly odd collection. This is how Horace Walpole described it in the 18th century. He said that the collection consisted of all sorts of portraits, bales of Cavendishes, Harleys, Holleses, Veres and Ogles. Every chamber is tapestried with them, and nay, with 10,000 other fat morsels. So look at the walls. They are covered with Horace Walpole's fat morsels. But the collection wasn't just portraits. It was diamonds and silver and odder items like the earring worn by Charles I on the scaffold, the pearl evening earring. It's just through there. Ask yourselves this: who had the job of getting it out of his ear afterwards? And the manuscript containing the first known recipe for curry from 1729. And appropriately, as we're standing in what was once a galloping track for horses, you'll never see so many equine pictures in your life. I'd like to finish with a little extract from, it's the autobiography of the 6th Duke of Portland. So we're in the late 19th century. He's just arrived at the house after the death of the 5th Duke with his half-sister, Lady Ottoline Morell, otherwise known as Lady Utterly Immoral, because of her many lovers. And she started going through all the treasures that they now discovered in this amazing, mysterious house. You need to know here that peppercorns were used to stop the moths from getting at textile items. I'm not sure whether this actually works, but this is what they believed. And this is what she has to tell us in the year 1879. Rare Gobelins tapestries were discovered in long tin boxes. How well I remember the smell of the peppercorns as they tumbled out on the floor when the long roll of splendid pink tapestries was undone and spread out before us. Now, those tapestries had been in that tin trunk for the best part of half a century. Nobody had had them out, nobody had seen them, nobody had enjoyed them. Well, as you look around you now and you see all these paintings and all these cases full of marvelous things brought out for us to enjoy, I think we can all smell peppercorns, the scent of the riches of the past.